Hi everyone, I'm just about to bribe the dog with a chew, so hopefully we'll get some uninterrupted quiet. Sit, Roddy. Paw. Good boy. Right, hi everyone. So the little video that I'm going to run through with you now is the last really of the sessions around Weimar, okay? So the last sort of week and a bit, we've looked at a range of different important issues and features of Weimar Germany, all kind of really coming together in one particular question, okay? And this is a really popular question that you could do for coursework. So the question that we've sort of been working our way towards is this one here. So assess the factors leading to Hitler becoming Chancellor in January of 1933. There are lots of different factors, but I'm just going to narrow down 3 that I want us to work on together today. So we've got number 1, the Great Depression. We've got number 2, the role of Hitler himself and the Nazi Party in bringing themselves to power. And then factor 3, weaknesses of the Weimar government. How far is that a crucial factor in Hitler coming to power? Okay, what I would like you to do now, I want you to pause this video for a couple of minutes and I want you to just think briefly about those 3 factors. Can you identify one argument or 1 or 2 arguments or bits of evidence that you could use in relation to each of those factors, explaining why and how they helped Hitler come to power in 1933? Okay, so just again, Roddy, thought we'd have longer than that. We've got the Great Depression, Hitler and the Nazi Party, and weaknesses of the Weimar government. So pause me there and get a couple of ideas together. No. Right, okay, hopefully you should have restarted the video and you should have your own ideas together for each of those factors. What I'm now going to do, I'm just going to run through for each of those factors a couple of the things that you might have mentioned. If you haven't, add it to your list as we go through. Okay, so if you can make some notes as I'm talking to you, that would be helpful. Right, so we're going to start with the Great Depression. Okay, now hopefully these are some of the things that you have started to note down on the Great Depression. So I'm going to start over here. So the Great Depression, the biggest kind of argument really that you can make in relation to that being significant is the impact that the Great Depression has on a wide range of German society. Okay, so Great Depression, obviously originates in America with the Wall Street crash, and one of the things that the Americans did was they suddenly wanted all of the money that they had loaned to Germany throughout the 1920s to help them recover after the First World War. They want all of that back. What that does is that has an impact on German businesses. And lots of German businesses started to collapse. And the side effect for that for the workers was that lots of them lost their jobs. So we had a statistic that I mentioned yesterday in the video about elections, where we said in 1932, 6 million German people were unemployed, significant proportion of the population. So the Wall Street crash and the subsequent Great Depression, it's not like it just affects one social group within Germany, it affects everybody. So the business owners are affected, the working class are affected. And that leads to desperate circumstances for millions and millions of German families, and they start to look to the political extremes again. Okay, so we talked a little bit about that in a video from last week where we were talking about the polarization of politics, and that when things are hard, voters look to the political extremes, and the Great Depression causes that to happen. And that leads us on really nicely to the second factor that you might want to reference here, which is what I talked to you about last lesson, election results. There is so much evidence in relation to the election results from the 1920s, both before the Wall Street crash and after, to see its impact. Now, yesterday we talked about the Nazi Party, so the NSDAP, I've just reminded you here of some of those stats that would be really strong evidence to prove that the crucial factor in Hitler coming to power is the Wall Street crash. So just as a reminder, 1928, the year before the Wall Street crash, the Nazi Party are irrelevant, you could argue, only getting 2.6% of the vote. 1930 election, not long after the Wall Street crash, they've gone up to 18% of the vote. And then by July of 1932, the year where we've got unemployment hitting 6 million, 37.2% of the vote. Okay, so that is as a result of the Great Depression. But also important to know, and if you wanted to look into this in more detail, if you decided to do this for your coursework question, look at the election results for the Communist Party as well, because they also do better after the Wall Street crash. Okay, it's that polarization of politics again post Wall Street crash. Okay, you might have a few other ideas down. There are lots more. I just wanted to focus on kind of what the key ones were. Okay, right, moving on to factor number 2 is Hitler and the Nazi Party. Okay, so again, I've just drawn out 2 main features for me to run through with you. So number 1, one of the things that the Nazi Party does really, really well is that it has a really clear ideological message that it can put to the German people. All right, so I've noted down here some of the things that the Nazi Party do in terms of their ideology, and this is kind of what they are expressing to the German public in various different ways throughout the 1920s. So feature number 1, they are probably one of the strongest voices that speaks out against the Treaty of Versailles. Okay, right since they were created in 1919, the Nazi Party have been strong critics of the Versailles Treaty and have promised that they are going to overturn it. They are going to restore pride back to Germany again, rebuild its armed forces. They are going to get back the German-speaking people that were taken from them and made part of Poland in the Polish corridor, or unite with Austria, which they viewed as a natural bond that the Versailles Treaty banned. So strong critics of that long-term resentment that's been built up since the end of the First World War. And they're still putting out that message in 1930, 1931, 1932, just like they were in 1919, 1920 and 1921. It's a long...